Hello and welcome back to Side by Side with D. Today we are going to be making one of my favorite desserts, which is apple pie. Apple pie is one of those things that is a classic. I feel like we should all, well, if we're getting into this space of like being kind of like there has to be like a foundation to our cooking skills or levels or whatever, right? Like our skill set. We want to be able to know like the basics of things, which is like how to properly cook a protein or how to make, I don't know, pasta by hand if necessary, or even like some of the classic American desserts like apple pie. Apple pie, I think it's American. Is it American? It doesn't matter. Apple pie is one of my favorite desserts. It's a classic, and it's definitely something that I want to learn how to make. And I did have a recipe that I printed out, right? And it has great reviews. And I was gonna come on here, and I was gonna use this recipe, and it was gonna be great, and I had a good feeling about it, and all that stuff. And then I was telling myself like, but the hand apple pies though, you know what I mean? So I feel torn because a part of me is like, let's stick to the basics. Let's stick to the traditional things. Let's learn how to make a classic apple pie. And then later on we can deviate from that and do like hand pies and things like that. But to be honest with you, I really like the hand pies. I'm not gonna hold you. I'm not somebody who frequents McDonald's. But a hand pie from McDonald's, the apple pies from McDonald's, okay, they used to be back in the day. I don't know anymore. Back in the day, they used to be Chef's Kiss. So I don't know. I think I want to make the hand pies. I don't have a recipe for that. So we are going to be flying solo, kind of just doing whatever. And the good thing about it is that I'm using our pie crust recipe from a previous video that's already in the fridge and set to go. So the filling to me is kind of like one of those things where it's like I can kind of taste and adjust the seasonings, the sugar, the salt, whatever, to kind of get it where I want it to be. And I don't know, I don't feel like I can really mess it up too much. I'm not somebody who, like I said, is like a complete amateur, but I don't know how to correct my mistakes, or I can't tell if something tastes good or if the texture's off or whatever. Like I feel like I have like a pretty good enough of like a background of cooking to kind of figure my way out, even if it's something that is like uncharted territory, like apple pie. I've never really made any pie. I've made a sweet potato pie this previous Thanksgiving and it turned out well, but that's like a completely different pie filling. So we are going to just reference this because I did get the ingredients to follow this pie, right? So it called for 7 large Granny Smith apples. There are about, let me see, 2, 4, 6, 8 in here, but they're not large. They're like hand size, average size. So I feel like it kind of counts for the 7 large. It requires a half a cup of granulated sugar, a half a cup of light brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, a teaspoon of an eighth a teaspoon of ground nutmeg, a tablespoon of lemon juice, and a large egg to brush the top of the pie. We're gonna follow that. We are going to add just some things in there. Do they belong in there? We're about to find out. So let's get started. The first thing that we need to do is we need to start peeling our apples. If you have an apple peeler or a corer, you can go ahead and use that. I am an apple peeler, so I just have a regular vegetable peel. And we are going to be peeling and cutting these. I'm gonna angle the camera down so we can do this process together. So I did watch a little bit, or I guess I kind of skimmed through Joshua Weissman's, I don't know if I'm saying that properly, but if you watch any cooking channels on YouTube, you've probably run into one or two of his videos before, if you don't already follow him. He did like he always does this little series like But Better, and he did a But Better for the McDonald's ham pie. Now I am gonna pull his video up again just to see what he seasoned, I guess he seasoned the outside of the ham pie with, because basically once he had it all laid out and everything was ready to go into the oven, once you brush it with the egg wash, you are gonna season it with like a sugar, cinnamon, but he put a garam masala in it. So I just want to check that and see exactly what he used, because I do want it to still have that cinnamony, spicy flavor that the McDonald's one typically has. Now, also in his pie filling, he used some allspice. I do have allspice, so I am going to go ahead and add that into my seasonings as well. He diced up the apple pie. He diced up the apples pretty uniformly into cubes. So we're also going to be doing that. I think that was another thing that it kind of was like, when I was looking at apple pie videos, and again, I love apple pie. I love the flavor of apple pie. I've never made it, and honestly, it's something that I actually don't eat a lot. But I was looking at it, and I was thinking like, okay, I don't really care for the big slices. I don't really care when it's like that dry looking pie. You know, like when you cut it in and it's just fruit stacked on top of each other. It doesn't feel like it has like a lot of syrup to it. It doesn't, the apple slices are like really long. So I think overall just the aesthetic and the way that the ham pies come together, to me, I feel like it has like a better bite. You get like that double crust, and I'm somebody who loves a pie crust. And so I feel like even though technically it's probably the same amount of crust, because you kind of get like all four corners instead of just like the top and bottom of a pie. I don't know, to me it just feels like more crust, better bite, you know, better moisture inside of the ham pie. I'm just vibing with it. I'm vibing with it. I like the idea that if I don't necessarily need all of them, maybe I can just prep them, do everything up until the egg wash and the sprinkle of sugar on top, and I can do like a flash freeze and then freeze them. That's what I'm thinking anyways. I don't know if apples can be just frozen like that, or if they need some sort of stabilizer or something. It could probably get too watery, so that way when you go to bake it at another time, it may kind of start seeping out of the, I'm just getting any brown that I see off of it. It starts seeping out of the sides, or I guess you can bake it maybe from frozen. I don't know. I'll have to look that up. And if I'm being honest with you, I don't even know if they'll last that long that I'll have to freeze them. I think what I would want to do though is keep some unbaked in the refrigerator, and then that way I can just bake it on the spot and have it nice and warm with some ice cream. I'm typically not a person who likes sweet on top of sweet, so I never usually get like cake and ice cream or those cookie skillets and ice cream. But apple pie and ice cream is just a classic. It goes together well, I feel like. Even though they're both sweet, I don't know, I feel like it's like a different type of sweet. I guess it has to do with the cinnamon, where the cinnamon gives you that sweet, I guess, essence. But it doesn't feel as sweet as like a lava cake, if that makes sense. In Joshua's video, he also used Fuji apples. But again, because I'm kind of pivoting at the last minute, I already have these Granny Smith apples in place. But I don't mind the Granny Smith apples, especially if it's going to give me that classic apple pie flavor. It's essentially the same exact thing. One is just a ham pie and one is just like a regular traditional pie dish. But I'm liking the idea of the ham pie. Also too, if you want to make these ham pies, and because apparently McDonald's used to fry their ham pies, and that's also an option. Now, I didn't watch, like I said, I didn't watch the video in its entirety. He does show the version where you fry it. If you don't even want to make a dough or puff pastry or whatever, you don't want to get puff pastry, you can also just buy empanada disc and do the filling and literally fry them and then coat them in sugar. Like a lot of the Spanish restaurants and stuff that you go to, and they have like a sweet fried dessert. It's just empanada casings. And you can get them in the freezer section at the grocery store. I mean, the same way you can get puff pastry, it's just whatever your preference is. I've never fried anything in puff pastry, so I don't know, but I have fried things in empanada casings, and I'm pretty sure it'll be really good. I will do my best to get these as uniform as possible. What we're basically going to do is we're going to cut all four sides, trying to leave the core alone. We don't want the core. That may be a little too close. I'm just doing that because I don't want, it's a little bit of the skin left, and I don't want that in my pie, so. See, just, if you have any skin, you can just scrape that right off. Now, the only difference is in the ham pie filling, he used a cornstarch slurry to thicken it up. I don't have any cornstarch, so in this recipe, when he was doing the filling, because it wasn't cooked, because the apples was supposed to cook when the pie bakes, he's I guess mixed in a little bit of flour. So what we're gonna do, well, if you have cornstarch, you can just go ahead and do a cornstarch slurry. I am gonna do a little bit of flour and water and throw that in there, and I'm just gonna do it at the close to about 1/3 of the way of the cook process, so that way I can give it some time for that flour to cook out. Got a little bit of core in this one. if this is a good size or if this might be a little bit too big. This might be too big for the hand pies. This feels better. I'm gonna keep them right here so I can look at it as I'm cutting to try to get as close to that size as possible. This one also has a little bit of core. Don't worry, these, as you know, these are like kid knives at this point. So this recipe turned out great. I kind of just wanted to come on here really quick while I'm cutting the apples to say that now that the project is done and I have my final result, I probably wouldn't have used Granny Smith apples looking back. It was listed on the original recipe that I had used, which I will link below. And it was fine. I think it, for me, right? Like, because I started off making like a traditional apple pie, and then I pivoted to the hand pies. And I pivoted to the hand pies to kind of give you that feel of the McDonald's apple pie. At that point, I had it in my head of like McDonald's apple pie, that the Granny Smith apples, to me at least, were just a little bit too tart, especially when you add the acidity from the lemon juice. I will say that it was really, really good with ice cream, because it helped balance out that tartness. And again, I'm somebody who doesn't typically like sweet on sweet, so I was able to eat the ice cream and the apple pie together, and I really enjoyed it that way. However, if I were to do this again, and I will do this again because everything turned out great. The crust was great. The filling was great. The texture of the apples were perfect, in my opinion. Again, they were really, really soft, but it still held its shape. The sweetness was there with the cinnamon, but it wasn't like overly sweet. However, to me, these just weren't the right apples for this project. Next time, I would definitely use something else. Now, in Joshua Weissman's, y'all can help me out with that. In his video, he used Fuji apples. So he did use a red apple. So next time I would definitely go ahead and try red apples. I would either do the Fuji apples or like a Macintosh apple, but something a little bit sweeter than the Granny Smiths. So I just wanted to come on here and say that if you are somebody who you like that tartness, you like that punch in the bite, definitely go ahead and continue with the Granny Smiths. But if you're somebody like me and you were just looking for like that McDonald's kind of replica in your mind, at least, so like that sweet treat and everything is just kind of more cohesive, I will say, and just like being like a nice little dessert rather than kind of having like that punch back, then I would definitely go for a red apple, because in my opinion, I think it would have just been better. Now, I haven't done it yet, so I don't know, but I don't know. I think it would have worked out better. I don't even know if I've ever seen like apples in the freezer section other than like apple pie filling, which I'm sure has like a lot of preservatives in it to get it to the product that we receive at the store, where they're able to freeze it without it like, you know, being watery or whatever. I do have some fruit pecked in here. I wonder if I'm able to use that in replacement for the cornstarch slurry. I'm gonna have to look that up. Okay, we're gonna get a pot. And what we're gonna do right now, we're just gonna add sugar on top of these apples because we want to macerate the apples, which basically means let fruit sit in sugar and it'll start to form juices. That way it'll extract the natural juices of the fruit versus us having to use some sort of supplement like water or whatever. And then once it starts to cook down, it's just going to be more watery because of the water from the fruit is going to be released, and it can be a mess. I do that when I make jam. And it's really not anything to think about. You just add some sugar. Now for me, I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of white sugar because that is what the recipe called for. And then again, as we're cooking, we're just going to adjust and see if we need any more. We still have to add a 1/2 cup of sugar, brown sugar though. But I'm just going to wait on that. I'm just going to let these apples sit in the white sugar. Just mix it so they're all coated. So it should look like candied apples. And we're going to clean this up a little bit and get out the rest of the ingredients that we need to make the pies. So we did need half the juice. We did need the juice of a 1/2 lemon. This might be a 1/4 of a lemon. But like worst case scenario, I also have an unused lime, well, unfinished 1/2 lime. So I'll start with this and whatever, we'll just squeeze some lime in there. Hopefully it doesn't make too much of a difference, but you will need a 1/2 cup of lemon juice. We're gonna get some cinnamon. We need salt. We need brown sugar. The recipe calls for light brown sugar. Let's see. He did use that garam masala. I'm just going to put that to the side. We also need some nutmeg. No one ever said anything about any vanilla. So I don't think we need vanilla, but I just put it to the side just in case. We have nutmeg. We have, I have some ground cloves here. And there's something else. Oh yeah, the allspice. Again, no one said anything to me about ground cloves. But I'm just improvising a little bit. So the allspice is whole. So I'm just gonna take one and grind it up in here. I'm gonna put this. So they look like little seeds. Little dried berries, I guess, in a way, too. know it may not seem like a lot just using one pimento seed, but pimento seed is also allspice. But it's usually something that's in like pie fillings, as far as like pumpkin pie, things like that. It's just kind of there in the background. I use it mostly when I'm doing like Caribbean foods because they use a lot of allspice. So we are going to get half a cup. We're only getting a half a cup. This is a 4th cup measure for me. That's why I'm using 2. But I feel like the good thing about this is that you don't even have to be like super, super, super precise, because the technical stuff really was for the pie crust, not necessarily the pie filling. We're gonna add some cinnamon. In the recipe, it says 1 teaspoon. Okay, seems like a good amount. In this apple pie filling, the original one that I was gonna follow, it doesn't say anything about salt, but I can't imagine any baked good not having any salt in it. So I'm just gonna add a pinch. Again, it's not in that recipe, so do with that what you will. I guess I'll let you know once I get to the end if the salt was noticeable. It shouldn't be. So if it is noticeable, then it's probably best not to put it in there. But we've got some nutmeg. I'm gonna just literally put a tap of ground clove, and we're gonna get this stirred in. While we're doing this, or well, I guess while we're waiting for the apples to continue to macerate, if you go ahead and take a look and just scoop some of your apples to the side, you can see like a liquid kind of forming at the bottom. Let me see. It kind of pools there. That's what we want to see. We're gonna let that go for another few minutes. This is gonna go in the filling. We want to create another little bowl so we can have something to dust it with on the top. Now, I think typically when you do apple pies, you need sanding sugar, which is like that coarse sugar that you get and it looks like all pretty and sparkly. But for the hand pies, I don't believe that we needed to use that. And if we did, we ain't got it. So we're just kind of rolling with what we have. So I'm just gonna add, let me see. I'm gonna start off with just 2 heaping teaspoons of sugar. We're gonna add maybe a 1/4 of a teaspoon of cinnamon. He added garam masala. I don't want to start off with a lot. I can see why he would do that. Like, I get it, like with the cinnamon and all that, but then also I'm like, what? So I'm literally just gonna add a tap. Girl, imagine a tap. We're gonna do this. This probably isn't even considered. Can you even see it? I don't even think this is an 1/8. This might be like a 16th of a teaspoon. We're gonna start there. And we're gonna taste this just like this. And I can I don't know if it's because I opened the jar. I can definitely smell the garam masala, so I'm kind of nervous about that. I want to get it mixed really well. This is what it looks like right now. I don't know what I need to do to get this camera to focus. Okay, there we go. Let's try it. Okay, that makes sense. That's good. That makes sense, and it's gonna make a lot more sense with the filling of the crust. I mean, the filling of the pie being really sweet. So we're gonna go with that. So that was about 1/4 of a teaspoon of cinnamon, an 1/8 or a 16th of a teaspoon of garam masala, and 2 heaping teaspoons of plain sugar. Now we're gonna turn on our apples, add in our brown sugar mixture, and get that cooking down. Okay. So I want to pull this so you can see. I can't even see if you can see. You see the juices that are spilling? We're going to turn this on. And we're going to go ahead and add our brown sugar mixture. I do have to see at what point do we add the lemon juice. Is it now? Let me see. All right. I can't see because I've gone rogue. So we're gonna add it now. We are gonna go ahead and add the lemon juice. So I see a lot of lemons as soon as I open this up. So I'm just gonna take some of these out where I can help it before I squeeze. And what I do is I just squeeze in my hand. I leave just a tiny bit of space for the lemon juice to actually make it through without trying at least to get lemon seeds in the pot. I'm gonna turn this up. No sense to act shy about it. And we are going to let these cook down. While we're letting these cook down, we're gonna go ahead and get started on our pie crust. I'm gonna start rolling it out and measuring it for the hand pies, but I do just want to taste the syrup just to see if everything is kind of where I want it to be. That's yummy, that's bright. It is very sweet. I am just gonna add a touch more cinnamon. And I do think that I want to add just a splash of vanilla. Oops. Okay, we're gonna let these cook and get started on our pie. Okay. So, this is the part that I'm now most nervous about. I was already nervous just doing the top and bottom. Now I'm kind of freaking out about doing the hand pies, but we're still gonna roll with it. We have out our little silicone mat. We're gonna get our pie crust. The recipe for the pie crust makes 2 crusts. We're gonna get out both of them. I'm gonna try to roll it as thin as possible. These are hard. I'm gonna try to roll it as thin as possible, but we still might end up needing 2. So I'm just gonna leave that there. I almost want my apples to kind of candy. I don't know if you guys ever made like yams or anything like that, but you make sweet potatoes and you can candy them and like sugar and kind of pretty much the same ingredients. So I'm hoping that's what we can replicate here with these apples without using this cornstarch or the flour, but if we need the flour, we'll use it. That's like a brick. I wonder if I'm supposed to, I don't remember, did I leave it out last time? I don't think I did. I think I just kept pushing it and it got easier. You're definitely gonna need both of them. That's actually pretty thin. I don't think I could get it any thinner than that. I don't know if that'll work. I love the pie crust, so I'm not going to be cutting off the edges, but if you want it to be pretty, you can go ahead and take a knife and just cut around it, but I don't mind it, so I'm going to leave it on. Now what I don't want to do is accidentally make applesauce, so I'm keeping an eye on the apples, and I think now might be a good time to add in the cornstarch slurry or the flour. This is what it's looking like, and they look pretty cooked all the way through. I'm just gonna take the fork . They're soft, so we are going to, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a little bit of that liquid . Instead of using water and adding more liquid. What I have is 1/4 cup of the apple liquid, and I'm gonna get some flour and then the fork. I have about 1/2 tablespoon of flour. If I can't get it fully incorporated in here, I'm gonna have to move it to a bowl. Because what I don't want to do is add, if you can see, some of these flour bits that are floating at the top. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna add it back in using the strainer. I'm gonna give it a second to see if that was enough flour. If not, I'll repeat that same process. But we are gonna continue working on this. And what I wanna do is now what he did in the video is he cut all around the edges to get like a perfect square, and then he divided it. I could do that. I will do that. I'll do it. And then I'll just use the scraps. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut down the middle. Now, if I used this mat properly, I would have been able to find the middle, but it's okay. That looks good to me. And then we're gonna do one. We're gonna make 3. That way I don't have to struggle with the filling if I feel like it's too small. Now the hard part is going to be getting the other one to match this in size. But we have our base layer, and we're going to get a cookie sheet. See if this is any thicker than when I left it. It is. Cool. So I'm gonna move these to the cookie sheet. I think I'm gonna add a little bit of butter at the bottom of that cookie sheet, just so it doesn't stick. You know, actually, the smart thing would be to use these as the tops and bottoms, and then do like, so I made 6 of them, so I'll just make 3 pies out of these and then make whatever out of that one, instead of trying to match it, because these are all pretty much matched, and it would just make more sense that way. So these will all be tops and bottoms. And then the next batch will be whatever it'll be. 3, 4. We'll see how many we get. I'll show you my cooked apples so I have an opportunity. The syrup is obviously still there, but I'm letting it cool off for a second. See if it'll thicken up. If not, I'll just squeeze as much of the juice as I can out. I'm not turning on the oven yet. We're gonna bake these at about 20 to 25 minutes at 400 degrees because we are gonna pop them in the fridge. We want the crust to get back cool and firm before we throw them just straight into the oven. So we need that to cool down completely. And then we'll fill them and then let them chill for a sec, and then we'll pop them in the oven. For a second I thought I felt a piece of wood, but I will say I'm much better at rolling out these pie crusts than the tortillas. I think you're supposed to start from the center and then push out. Yeah, that makes more sense. Were you all screaming that the last few videos or no? Let me know. Start from the center. Do I even attempt to flip it at this point? Like at this point, what is the purpose? What's this? Yeah, because we'll add a little flour. This side is a lot thinner. I can feel it. So I'm gonna... I think we'll get the same amount. This one that we did with the first one. So all in all, we'll have 6. Which in a pie, is it about 6 servings? Right? Maybe heaping portions. Oh, we'll get these scraps rolled into maybe 2. I have my little ball right here. That one I probably could have did a little higher. Okay. I don't know. This might only be probably wasn't the best idea, but do we go this way? No, definitely go this way. Yeah, same thing. Okay. All right. Our apples are still way too hot to try to fill these, so we're actually gonna pop these back in the refrigerator. So I've added a layer of plastic wrap down, and I'm just gonna add these on top so they don't stick to each other. And then we're gonna add another layer on top of it. We're gonna pop these in the fridge. I still have to work with these scraps, but they'll be okay. Alright, let's get a ball going. I swear this feels just like Play-Doh. Let's get these apples out of this pot. use a spider. You know what? I'm glad I thought to do this. I use the spider to get the apples out of the pot and away from the juices. I am going to turn that pot back on because I want those juices to bubble and start to caramelize, so it becomes a thicker syrup. Yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to perfectly roll anything. What I'm going to do though, because it kind of seems, I mean, if you look at it from this angle, right? I feel like if I were to split it this way, it'd be pretty even. And what I'm gonna do is, when I fill the dough, I'll just do like turnovers, I guess, in a way, and fold in the scraps so we don't have anything that's going to waste. Now I want to show you this. As you can see, it has thickened up quite a bit. And we're gonna pour that over our apples. I might burn my hand just so I can show you. The consistency is amazing. So I know we're cooling our apples down and this is gonna heat them up a little bit, but that's okay. Apples are continuing to cool. I'm just gonna go ahead and get started on dinner. Just want to show you when I mix it in. Thick and syrupy. But it's not just like wet. See, there's nothing dripping from the spoon. So we're gonna continue to let this cool. I'm gonna set a timer for about 45 minutes and we'll be back once the timer is up to see the temperature of our apples. Okay, it's been 45 minutes. The first thing we're gonna do before we take anything out, we are going to set our ovens to 400 degrees. I do want to show you. Oh, my battery's dead. 1 second. We're back. I honestly can't even tell you like, oh, it smells amazing in here because I'm literally making a Cajun salmon with a yellow rice and like a roasted garlic broccoli. So it smells all types of crazy in here. It smells like cinnamon, it smells like apple, it smells like Cajun. So, but this looks great. And again, it has that consistency that I want. That it's syrupy, it's sticking to the spoon. We're still gonna use a spoon with some holes in it because we don't want to just get all these juices on there, especially they're already coated in the apples, so we don't want to drag any extra moisture. So we're gonna go get our dough and we're gonna get this going. think we need this anymore, but we'll just leave that there. Okay. Oh, we also need an egg wash. So I'm gonna put that here. I don't have a spoon small enough with holes, so I'm gonna use this mini spatula. You wanna keep it in the center. And moving forward, we're going to be adding the egg wash around the sides before we add our filling to the dough. Just in case it starts to spill a little bit, we don't have to worry about trying to brush the egg wash on top of the filling. Ooh, there's a little bit of shell. Okay. I'm sorry, I tried to move on from this habit, but I just can't. I have to take this out. Okay, now I can sleep at night. I do have a pastry brush. Just want to get some of the syrup away from the edge so we can go ahead and get our egg. That's what's going to help seal our hand pies. You know what? I'm glad I kept the rolling pin, because what I'm gonna do, if I can give myself some room, I'm just gonna roll it out a little bit because I want it to feel like it's fitting over the top of the pie. And what you want to do, you don't want to start sealing on the edges. You want to press around wherever you have a filling so you can get as much air out of there as possible. If you were to have like those little crinkly pastry rollers, now would be a good time to go ahead and do that. I don't have one, and I can take a knife and cut it, but again, I don't want to lose any crust because I like the crust. So I'm just gonna leave it like that. And let me see if I can just move this over so we can start the next one. It almost looks like a huge ravioli. Now, I don't want to forget that I have to cut slits in this. Don't let me forget, please. Okay. Just put that there. Gonna get some egg on here. Also making dinner, so I am a couple of timers going off for different things. Do I have to roll it? Let me see. I think it's backwards. That looks good. You know what I'm gonna do? You know what? That might be worse. It's probably not a good idea. Let's just not deviate too much. Sometimes we think as we go. Not sometimes, a lot of the time we think as we go. Think of a plan and you think the better of it. Like, you know what? Maybe not. And to other people, that can come across as frazzled. But I think for a lot of us, especially for those of us who cook at home every day, a lot of it is just thinking on your feet. Problem solving. Sometimes you create a problem and have to end up solving the problem from trying to solve the problem. But trial and error is basically what I'm getting at here. And until you do it yourself, you just don't know how things are going to turn out for you, you know? It can look a certain way on a video. You can think a person is doing something and they're not being the most efficient, but until you try it yourself. People say that a lot, especially like about like those reality TV shows, whether it be like MasterChef or whatever, like when they have like challenges and stuff, there are people always like, oh, it looked so much easier on TV. It's like, yeah, It does look pretty easy when people are able to edit, you know, and make things look seamless. But a lot of stuff is, you know, doesn't come without its challenges. So we should all just be mindful of that. Especially things that we're doing that are new to us, which is pretty much everything that we're doing here is new to us in a way. Okay, at this point I want to start getting them on here, and so I need to move these out the way so we can put the ones that are already done on our cookie sheet. I'm trying to be as gentle as possible. The last thing I want to do is rip the dough at the bottom. Got 2. And 3. Okay. I think we may have just enough filling too. Even if we don't have enough filling for those little turnovers, we'll just make them into like twisty cinnamon sticks and they'll be good. That we can dip in the juices of this apple filling. I don't pause this much when I talk in my real life, but I'm trying not to say so much. Because again, it's one of those things, it is hard. You think, oh, I can do that, or I have these conversations all the time. And then you know a camera's gonna be on you, this is gonna go on the internet, and you start to kind of over-process and overthink what you're saying. And so you take a lot of pauses that in your real life you don't necessarily do. I don't think it's something that I'm gonna always do. I think it's just gonna come with time. I don't even think I'm like 10 videos in at this point. I don't know. There are some videos that I filmed that I didn't put up, so the number is probably always going to sound different when I'm talking about that. But over time, I think it'll become more natural to me. I'll care less about what I'm saying, and when I do, I feel bad for you guys. I'm known to be very sarcastic, and I tell some jokes sometimes. I think I'm funny. We'll see. I do want them as filled as possible. The less air in the pocket, the better. I'm gonna go in with a fork and just press down on them just to make sure that they're completely sealed before they go in the oven. Tiny fork. Just press it so I can move it. Big one over a little. Can we do it? Yeah, that's just enough. That's fine. We're just gonna press down on the edges. You want to do it at an angle so you're not actually making holes. Like you're not sticking the knife in the dough, you're just getting the fork imprint. If you don't have a double crust, or if you only have like enough puff pastry for one or two, but you want to make a lot of them, you can always do turnovers, which is basically putting the fruit filling down first and then just putting the puff pastry on top of it. And then once it's all baked and then cooled, you can go ahead and flip it and then it'll look like a tart. Well, that's not a turnover, then that's a tart. Okay. We're actually gonna let these cool for like 5 minutes, and then we're gonna cut slits, egg wash them, some sugar, and then they're gonna go in the oven. While those 5 minutes are going, I'm gonna take these two odd shaped bad boys and we're about to figure out something. We still have some dough left, filling left. So, let's see what we have here. You're gonna put the filling on one side, preferably the side that's bigger, like a wider space. So I'm gonna go with this side. And then what we're gonna do is we're just gonna fold it over. Press down. You could cut if you feel like it's too long. Again, we love the crust, so I'm not cutting any of it off. But if you want it to be pretty, you can go ahead and cut it so it looks more uniform. This almost looks like Johnny Rocket. Kinda, can you see it from your angle? Can you see what I'm saying? And I feel like I got a good amount of these out of this. So all in all, I got 8. Shoot. Which is not bad. Oh, almost forgot. They kind of look like angel wings a little bit. Okay. So we're all done with that. We have 10 seconds left on our timer, so we're gonna go grab our hand pies. Now, I'm nervous because I don't really have a sharp knife for this, but I do have a small little knife. It's like, I guess it's like a paring knife. I use it for like fruit. Hold your ears, I'm gonna try to sharpen it. And Let me see. Yeah, that was good enough. So I'm just gonna make 3 slits. I'm just gonna go back and forth a little bit just to make sure that those slits are in there. I don't care if it necessarily goes all the way through, as long as I see there is some puncturing of the dough. I just need to know that some air is getting in there. Okay, and then our little guys, just wash everybody. This was not difficult at all. At least I don't feel like it was really difficult. Again, a big part of that could be that the pie crust was done ahead of time, but even the pie crust, if you go back and watch that video, it did not take long at all. It did not require that many ingredients or that much work. There was like no kneading or anything that really had to happen. Just pop it in the fridge if you're gonna use it within the next day or so. Anything more than that, pop it in the freezer. You do have to thaw it in the fridge overnight. It's probably not a good idea to let it thaw on the counter because you still need it to be firm to roll it out. Maybe like if you don't leave or anything and you set a timer, you check it to make sure that it's getting to that temperature that you need it to. But I don't know if it could thaw evenly that way. You know what I mean? Like some parts of it that will be where you need it to be, then other parts of it will still be pretty frozen. So it'll be hard to move forward. I don't know how that works if you try to thaw it on the counter. Evenly on here. I don't want egg to be sitting somewhere and I get like a little taste of scrambled egg anywhere. Small guys over here. They never made it to the fridge to cool off for the 5 minutes, but I think they'll be all right. And now we are going to do our cinnamon, sugar, and garam masala dusting. I feel like I can try it with the spoon. If it doesn't lay evenly, I may have to sprinkle with my hands. I don't want to forget about the corners. Because even when you bite, even if it doesn't have the apple filling, I still want it to taste cinnamony and still like a cohesive dish. Like every bite has something to it, you know what I mean? I don't know how I measured everything out just perfectly, but we're gonna put these in the oven for 20 minutes. Again, it's at 400 degrees, and we'll check back to see how they're doing. Okay, our timer just went off. We just pulled them out the oven. You can all kind of already see the tips of our wings got a little toasty. I guess it's due to either not having any filling, or some of the filling, as you can see, was spilling out on the side, so I mean, it just caramelized a little bit. But the bottoms look great. They're not burnt at all, and they do look pretty good. Now, I'm gonna show you the hand pies. They look awesome. They still have that sugary crust on the top. I'm gonna let them cool for a sec, and then we're gonna cut into it and try it. It's been a few minutes. Let's see what we're working with. Not these guys. I think I'm gonna go for this one. Okay, so first I just wanna turn it over. The back looks great. No juices are coming out, but you can see in the crevice. Oh, can you see in the crevice? It does look juicy. Let's take a look. That looks beautiful.
So here is where we go ahead and take a taste test. I did just take a few pictures first, but we do end up biting into it. Again, to me, it turned out really, really great. The only thing that I would change would just be the type of apples that I used, like I mentioned earlier in the video. But other than that, they were great. The crust was great. It had like a nice crunch to it, but it wasn't like overbaked. The sugary topping, it definitely stayed. Not only can you see it, but you can also taste it. So it, in my opinion, it did make the crust like a little bit more flavorful. It was nice. It was golden. It had a good crunch. It held its texture. It was moist, but it wasn't like running with juices like when you cut into it. And it was the perfect pairing with what is that called? Ice cream. I don't know, I can't think of the name. It's great with ice cream. I am not a person who typically likes vanilla ice cream, but this was really the perfect pairing for that. So if it's something that I don't know, because I'll have to try it, and I am going to try it again with the red apples. If I feel like it's something that with ice cream, it would then become too sweet, just with the ice cream and the sweeter apple. But this was great. Again, nothing about it that I would change, and it was so easy. I mean, honestly, yes, the video is like an hour and like 40 minutes long, right? But that's kind of like the unseen or unspoken part of like watching videos on any sort of social media platform, when they say this quick and easy recipe, and it's like, it is quick, I guess, and it is easy, but so, some things do take like quite a bit of preparation. So even though all we had to do is basically chop some apples and put some seasoning in it, put it in pan, and we did the crust the day before. And if you watch my pie crust video, which is going to be linked in the description, that also doesn't take very long. Sometimes the prep just it just be prepping. Like, it takes a little bit of extra time. But if you put on like some music, or if you put on a book or anything like that, like it's something that you can do mindlessly, and you can taste as you go. So even if you feel like you don't want to necessarily follow a recipe to a T, all you need is basically whatever you prefer and you're feeling, however sweet you want it, even whatever apple you prefer, and just taste as you go, and it's going to be exactly what you want it to be. So this is one of those things that is going to turn out great. We did not pull out our recipe book in this moment. And I'm glad that I didn't, because I do want to try it again with a different type of apple and make sure that when I'm writing it in my recipe book that I'm giving the exact detailed description of everything and measurements that we used. So I want to be able to not say like a pinch of salt, but like if I used like 1/8 of a teaspoon of a salt, I don't want to just say, any apple you prefer. Like, I want the recipe to be, if I can open it, or someone that I love can open it and they can literally follow it without having to do any guesstimating. So I did not write it out because we're going to try it again just with different apples and try to get more precise measurements. But I think this was definitely a success for my first time. And everything that I did in this video, I did go ahead and write it out in the description below, so you can at least see what I've done if you want to try this method and do it yourself or be able to follow along with the video. But that was it. This was great. I can't wait to try it again, and I know the next time, I just have a feeling that it's gonna hit. Apple pie, again, is one of my favorite desserts. So I'm definitely looking forward to a different version of it that is just as flavorful and honestly just as simple. So thank you guys for staying with me, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.